Is Super 7 doing G.I. Joe better than Hasbro? That's one of the questions I asked in one of the G.I. Joe groups on Facebook. Actually, I just said that Super 7 is doing G.I. Joe better than Hasbro. That gained a lot of attention. Some good, some bad, positive, negative. I want to go into some of that and explain why I think that or why I asked that question. We're going to unbox cases of the Wave 1 Super 7 G.I. Joe ReAction figures. I have all of them here in sealed cases. There are 6 figures in each case. This one in particular is one of the green shirts. I'm going to try and do those all in succession so that you can see the variation between all of them. But let's talk about a few of the things that Hasbro is doing with G.I. Joe first. We have the Classified series, and the Classified series is a 6-inch figure. These are awesome, love them. Bat, Alley Viper, 2 of the newest ones out, and 2 of the most highly sought after. Everybody loves those. They're great troop builders, and they look fantastic. I think that Hasbro is doing a really, really good job with the Classified line. The only thing that I would personally like to see with the Classified line is a file card on the back or wrap around or something. A file card included somewhere in the packaging detailing the character or the figure or a little bit of backstory behind it. Speaking of backstory, there's no backstory to tie in with these figures. There's not we don't have a comic involving the Classified series. We don't have a cartoon yet. There's supposed to be a cartoon coming this year. But there's really nothing tying them in. There's nothing to connect to these toys, to these figures, except nostalgia. And it's guys like me that grew up on G.I. Joe that collect them that are really tied to the line. I've also seen a lot of other collectors from other lines, Marvel Legends being one of the main ones. 6-inch figure collectors that are buying the G.I. Joes are getting into G.I. Joe just because it's a 6-inch figure. Now, one of the other things that Hasbro did was the retro line. Even though we got a few new figures in the retro line, the card backs are pretty low quality. The file card, let me grab one here real quick. So the card back that these figures come on, it's pretty low quality. The artwork looks good. It's retro artwork, but it's a modern figure. These were supposed to be a retro line, but it turned out retro card art line. And you flip them over, you have the other figures in the series featured, but look at your file card. It's literally just a single little tagline in 5 different languages. There's just not much to it. It's a little bit disappointing to me to see this, even though I will give them the fact that a file card is included. It's not, and I hate to sound this way because I knock so much of it all the time, but it's not what we got back in the 80s and 90s. If you're going to do a retro line that's paying homage to, or paying homage, however you want to say that word, to the 80s and 90s figures, make it like the 80s and 90s figures. Now, that being said, they have turned the retro tagline into retro paint themed 6-inch figures that'll be coming out. We have 4 of those announced and digital renders already shown. And there are O-ring figures. The HasLab Sky Striker comes with an assortment of O-ring figures. The construction from the figures are constructed like they were in the 80s. And you also have the Hasbro Pulse exclusive 2-pack of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. And they just announced and revealed digital renders of 2 more O-ring 2-packs. Now, a few people have those in hand. I haven't looked for any videos on them yet. But I'm hearing that the card backs on the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow 2-pack, the card backs on those figures are much like the card back here, and it's low quality, thin, and could probably deform and get banged up pretty easy. I liken this to more along the lines of it's more comparable to the old Funskool card backs. I'm sure that if any of you watching collect 3 3/4 inch figures, you're probably a little bit familiar with the flimsy Funskool card backs, and that's pretty much what they've done here. It's that level of quality. I've also seen reports that the figures themselves are of a lower quality as well. They are more comparable to the Funskool 3 3/4 inch figures, or some of the third-party 3 3/4 inch figures. They're of a lower quality than the figures that we had, like you see hanging back over here, from the 80s and 90s. Those were a pretty durable, high-quality plastic, and that's apparently just not what we're getting with these new O-ring figures. What I'm saying here is that Hasbro is doing a good job putting out an assortment of figures, an assortment of different lines to draw people in, and they've also licensed G.I. Joe to a couple of companies like Super 7. That license allows them to make whatever type of G.I. Joe product. It just seems like, as far as fan service goes, that Hasbro is getting close, but they're just missing the mark. You know, that's like these Wave 7, the Wave 7 cases of classified figures come with 3 Bats, 2 Alley Vipers, and a Gung Ho that we already have. And they announce they're releasing a 6-inch retro carded Gung Ho in original colors, at the same time that they're sending all these Gung Hos out to stores. They're sitting on the shelves. Nobody's buying them because they're waiting on that 6-inch retro color theme that we should have gotten to begin with. Here again, we have, Hasbro's doing something. They're kind of missing their mark. They're just not getting it dead on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Super 7 and what they're doing with the brand by opening up all of these Wave 1 Super 7 figures, and they're okay. So this is something Super 7 has done that's way cooler than what Hasbro is doing in most aspects, I think. So we have Wave 1, where with the retro figures or the O-ring figures, Hasbro's cranking out 2 or 3 figures at a time. And usually you've got 1 or 2 that'll hang around on the shelves and doesn't sell as well as the others. Super 7 put out 15, plus 3 Target exclusives for the first wave. Now, price point, these figures are $20. A lot of people, a lot of Joe collectors hate on these because they're only 5 points of articulation. They're not the fully articulated O-ring figure. They're not an O-ring figure, and they're not articulated like a modern figure. So they're getting a lot of hate in the G.I. Joe community. I think that these are targeted more toward a specific type of collector, people who actually collect Super 7, or people who are just into the nostalgia and not really into the line necessarily yet, and not really into the brand yet, and are like, hey, these are cool, and they pick them up because it reminds them of a cartoon. To me, this looks fantastic. Cobra Commander on a nice, thick, heavy stock card back. The figure is displayed nicely in a bubble with an accessory. Even though it's 5 points of articulation, I wasn't going to get into them because of that. But after seeing a couple of these in person and in hand, I think that they just look so awesome. They are 100% Sunbow cartoon. And the Sunbow cartoon's what I grew up with. So yeah, this is definitely pulling on the nostalgia strings, but it's also a really nice art piece. These are, I believe, targeted more toward mint on card collectors, such as myself. I'm not going to open these and play with them. I'm not going to open them and stick them all around the house or anything like that. They're going to go in a case and be just exactly what you see here. So you have something that looks like the original artwork from the card back. It's in the vein of the original, but it's totally new. That's a new illustration of Cobra Commander that actually looks like the figure in the package. So here's one way I think Super 7 is outdoing Hasbro with G.I. Joe, at least with their retro line. Now, flip over to the card back. The back of the card, I mean. You have the other figures that are in the series, plus you have a file card. You have a file card that is like the original file cards that we used to get. There's nothing wrong with having multiple languages, but there's really no need, in my opinion, to have a file card consist of a tagline in 5 different languages. Opinions on that may vary, but this is what I prefer. This is what looks best to me. You got a file card. It's worded. I'm pretty sure this is like the original file card. We can hold them up here and look next to each other. I've got an original mail-away file card here. Yeah, same information. This is pretty much the same thing that we would have gotten when we were younger, and with the vintage figures. Cobra Commander looks great. I'm happy with it. Up next, we have a Sunbow animated series Baroness. Again, the figure displays nicely, and you have a new illustration for the card back artwork and a real file card, along with the other figures included in the line. I think one of the things, like if we look at nostalgia, if that's what they're going to sell something on, Hasbro's not doing as good of a job of selling their retro figures on nostalgia as Super 7 is. I think that Super 7 really hits all the points with the nostalgia, with the aspect of nostalgia, but they didn't do the O-ring or the multiple points of articulation. A lot of people know and understand that the full articulation is what originally made G.I. Joe. Star Wars figures were 5 points of articulation like this. G.I. Joe came out and completely changed every bit of that, and was a tough competitor for the Star Wars line. If it wasn't for the strong Star Wars movies, I think, and books, they probably wouldn't have done as well as they did. Just because Hasbro made G.I. Joe have so much more playability. But again, these aren't really for playing. These are for display. They're high-end art pieces. A lot of people want to talk about the price point. These are $20 a piece, well, $18 a piece, but you're going to bust a $20 bill on them. They're not taking into consideration that these are not a Hasbro product. These are the product of a much smaller company that's paying a licensing fee, and it's smaller production numbers. They're not cranking these out by the millions. You're paying for a smaller run boutique type of action figure, in my opinion. It's been said a few times over that the ReAction line is a way for Super 7 to get their name on store shelves and to help sell their higher end Ultimates figures. And they make Ultimates figures for all kinds of 80s cartoons and different themes or whatever. But the ReAction figures, they're cool for display. I talked to a guy last night who's opening these up and using them for just different stuff. He's making little displays with them, and I started a Facebook group for these, for the G.I. Joe ReAction figures, and there's people that are posting pictures of little dioramas that they're putting together with these figures, and they look awesome. Tracker Quinn, You got a file card back here, an originally written file card. Quinn, probably an alias, real name unknown. Has information here about the character. I abhor senseless violence is the tagline. So again, with all of these, you have that very much retro styled file card on the high quality card back. Great looking figure. Displays well on a background where the figure actually pops. And you have this really cool illustration here. Real quick, I'll go over these again. I have a separate video for them, but I'll show them here in this one as well. Let me grab the Cobra Commander. I said in the original video that this one was actually a little bit lighter in color, and he is lighter in color. And he also has the vac metal faceplate and the chrome on the card back. So this is a Target exclusive figure for the ReAction line. And then you have the silent issue Snake Eyes, which we already talked about. And another Snake Eyes. Everybody loves Snake Eyes and loves how we get multiple versions of Snake Eyes every time new G.I. Joe figures come out. But for the fourth version of Snake Eyes, we have Funskool. Yes, the Secret Service Funskool figure. A light blue Snake Eyes with gold and black boots and silver web gear. On the back of the card, this is actually, I think, the same artwork from the other one that I'm going to show here in a few minutes. But on the back of the card, you have some of Series 2, some of Wave 2, and also you have Cobra Leader, Commando. You've got other stuff back here as well. A look at more figures that are coming out. They used to do this all the time back in the 80s as well. They'd have little explosions on the back for figures that weren't revealed yet. And then you have the Snake Eyes file card. Destro, new illustration. Check out the detail on the figure. It's got the eyebrows painted on just like he did in the cartoon, which was really weird. Eyebrows on a metal mask. But the mask is painted silver. I think that it would have been really cool for them to make a vac metal mask for Destro like they did the Target exclusive Cobra Commander. You have his file card here on the back. A nice gloss print on a heavy-duty cardstock. Yet again, this one comes with two accessories, the rockets for the wrist and a pistol. There you have Destro. We have Scarlet. She comes with her signature crossbow and a quiver. Very much so the original color scheme. They did a great job with the animated look to the face sculpt and paint. File card, other figures in the line. If Super 7 had taken these ReAction figures and made them O-ring, I think that they would have been so widely accepted that it would have been more popular than some of the stuff that Hasbro's putting out. Snake Eyes, the original animated Sunbow Snake Eyes. This has never been released, I don't think, as a figure before. One that looked like the Sunbow version of Snake Eyes, the cartoon version. And you have the same file card on the back as you do with the Secret Service Snake Eyes. Same file card. Even says Commando. Again, this is a Funskool reference, but I don't see anything on here about this figure being a reference to the Funskool figure. But there's a slight change in the artwork, just in the color and the weapon that the character is holding. Same pose, everything. So it's more just a color variation that, unless you know what it is, you're probably not going to get it. Now the Cobra Troopers, very reminiscent of the original Cobra Troopers. Figure looks like the artwork, but it's also the same figure from the cartoon. This is called Pink. It's a Caucasian figure, and the web gear comes down into a Y on the back. Can't see that from here. It's called the Y back. This Cobra Trooper is the H back, which the web gear forms an H on the back, and he is the light brown or tan skin color, which is also reflected in the artwork. Does he come with a different weapon? He does. He actually comes with a different weapon from the other one. Here we have the dark brown skin tone with the, what is it? This one is the H back. So the web gear forms an H on the back, which just means that he has a piece that goes across horizontally on the back. So there's two variations of each skin tone Cobra Trooper. You have two dark brown, two light brown, and two pink is what they're called. Y back and H back, and he also comes with the pistol accessory here. On the back, you have the file card. There might be a difference in these file cards here. No, it looks like the file cards are exactly the same. Even the same skin tone across all three figures. Here we have the dark brown skin tone Y back figure. I think that the way that they've distinguished this so that you can tell from the front is that the Y back figures come with a submachine gun, whereas the H back figures come with a pistol. And again, same file card for all of the figures. But I do like how the actual figure is represented in the illustration on the front of the card. H back, pink with the submachine gun. Same file card. You've got 6 Cobra Troopers that came out in Wave 1. They're all the same type of figure, but they have a little bit of variation between each one of them. You've got an instant army. If you're an army builder, these would be perfect. I love the fact that there's a little bit of variation between each of these figures. Y back, light brown skin tone reflected in the figure and the illustration together. Same card back. Again, submachine gun for the Y back figure. Now, whereas we got 6 variations of the Cobra Trooper, we only got 3 variations of the G.I. Joe Trooper, the infantry, the green shirt. You have this one with the tan or light brown skin shown on the figure and reflected in the illustration. This is a brand new style of illustration. I think it looks awesome. And you have the laser rifle from the cartoon. You have the card back. Check this out. File name, enter name, birthplace, enter name. So you could take a marker or pen and make this, you could make yourself into a G.I. Joe Trooper, a real G.I. Joe. You could become a real G.I. Joe here. Here you have the pink G.I. Joe Trooper, the infantry, again, reflected in the illustration and the figure. On the back, same file card where you can make yourself into a G.I. Joe figure with the laser rifle from the Sunbow cartoon. You know, the more I look at these, you've got green shirts, you got Cobra Troopers, you've got a 15-figure assortment just in the core Wave 1, 18 if you count the exclusives. Again, if Super 7 had made these O-rings, they would have knocked it out of the stadium. I mean, it would have just been a killer product. Not knocking them, but I mean, the articulation would have helped out a whole lot. And as far as what Hasbro's doing, I just, why couldn't they do this? You know, people want to talk about the $20 price tag or $18 price tag, whatever. On these, well, I think that some of these fine details, that's where you're seeing a lot of that cost come in. You've got a lot of fine detail in this stuff. They really put some heart and soul into the G.I. Joe ReAction line. And we have the brown or dark brown skinned G.I. Joe Infantry Trooper. Again, card back illustration, figure, look the same. Fantastic. On the back, make yourself a G.I. Joe. I think that these would be awesome for younger kids to actually play with. I mean, if you're not collecting for the entire artwork aspect of it, what kid doesn't want to make them, what kid wouldn't or shouldn't want to make themselves a G.I. Joe? This is along the same lines as what we had with the Mail Away Steel Brigade, where you could put your own information into a file card for that figure and in turn become a G.I. Joe yourself. Super 7's definitely doing something really, really different here. In some aspects, it is better than what Hasbro's doing, at least to me. But they're doing their own thing, and that's what's important. They're bringing everything that we know and love about the lore and history of G.I. Joe, that those of us that grew up on the Sunbow cartoon, they are bringing all of that to life. Which, that's one thing that really draws me to these, is the fact that they are bringing those aspects of the cartoon to life. Hasbro, you know, they've got the articulation and whatnot, but they're still not quite nailing it on all the other aspects of the toy line. Fantastic job, and I'm really happy that they're putting stuff out, especially these classifieds. The 6-inch figures look phenomenal. You want a file card for those, you go online to read it. There's also these little symbols on the sides of the box. You go online to decode these, and it's like an underdeveloped interactive system with the classified figures. Hopefully we get a good cartoon coming soon. For now, these Super 7 figures, I'm really into them. I think that they're great. I'm gonna keep them, at least for now. They're gonna earn a place on the wall. So thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed going through this. Be sure to comment with your opinions on the subject matter. Join the Facebook groups that I have listed here in the description. If you click on the link to my Teespring, you can purchase Action Media reviews, merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, and the like. Thanks for watching. Yo Joe.